Okay, thank you. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Athena. And I guess we'll call the meeting to order and let's have a sort of roll call. Who's here? Bernie.
Present.
Andy.
Here.
Julian. Still having technical issues. Raphael.
Here.
And Ken.
Here.
And I am here. Okay, so we have a full agenda, I see, and there were some minutes to approve. I think only one of them was in the packet, if I'm not mistaken. I think Meg had the other two, but she had a health issue tonight, and so I'm not sure if we're prepared to approve the July 24th or not. How do people feel? Have they had a chance to review that one?
I didn't see them.
This was a delayed minutes that were put in the packet back in August, so I don't know that they ever resurfaced since then.
Yeah, I didn't have a chance to.
Yeah, they were, so I'm gonna say let's defer this unless people would like to do otherwise, because the July 24th ones are in a packet from mid-August, so we need to maybe bring everything forward back into the packet for if we want to vote on them.
Yeah, that would be helpful.
Okay. Next on the agenda is public comment, and I see we have someone in the attending the meeting besides us, and so I'll open it up for public comment if anyone would like to speak. No public comment. Okay. The next on the agenda is outreach subcommittee update, which is me, and also the feedback subcommittee update. Now, I imagine they're related. Raphael, you have your hand up.
Who's on minutes tonight?
That is a good question. Julian, I don't know if you can hear us, but I don't have the list
Okay.
for minute taking,
All right.
unfortunately.
Go around.
I don't know who's up.
Okay.
I suspect we'll find out soon.
In general, we get the transcript and we can build it. Whoever it is can build it from there, but
sure. All right.
Yeah, thanks for asking. I was skimming past it. So outreach committee update. We met and focused on 2 items with some other discussion, but our 2 items that we were focused on is preparations for after the initial report is complete, and having a draft letter to send out to a lot of different organizations and individuals in town with an approach to broaden the scope and even give a repeat opportunity for people to engage with our process who maybe haven't before, or who would have something specific to respond to in the report. And so that's going to happen by means of a full contact list that we're building out of many different organizations in town. Civic, business, social organizations, nonprofits, publications, blogs, residential organizations, lots of things that we're building a list together. Meg initiated it and we're all contributing to it. And also the draft letter, which I think is feeling pretty close based on the most recent draft that Meg sent me, that we all kind of contributed to editing. It's fairly straightforward. I'm happy to share it on screen. I feel conscious of how much we need to pack into tonight's meeting, so I'm open to suggestion. If you'd like me to share what we've got drafted, it is an introduction to what the report, the sort of summary of our activities as a committee, and an invitation to participate. And it will ultimately direct the readers to the version of the initial report, which will be on the town website as well as on our website, and will give opportunities to, again, link to additional opportunities for written comment, ways to engage with us, ways to attend our meetings, to write to us, etc. So that is the general sense. This will be in the packet for people to review after tonight's meeting, but if you'd like me to share it right now, I'm happy to. Ken?
You gave a nice summary right there, what's in there. I don't think we need to go through it. Happy to look at it later.
Okay. So that was the one work product. The other was the contact list, like I said, that we've been building out, and everyone is contributing to emails of a whole bunch of different approaches to, again, the idea is widen the opportunity at this moment between the initial report and the preliminary report. This is not the same as what we're going to do with a public forum, which remains to be discussed for after the preliminary report. That's part of our charge. These are ways to sort of expand awareness and participation, engagement of whatever kind with our initial report. So that's the bulk of the activity from the outreach subcommittee. Anybody have questions or comments, Raphael?
And so that the public or others are aware, it's also an opportunity to give feedback on the initial report.
Absolutely. Yeah, if I didn't say that clearly, thank you. That's the whole idea is we gave lots of opportunities initially for open feedback, kind of open feedback on town government, the charter, everything. And this is now a different kind of opportunity, given that we have something to respond to. So thank you, Raphael. Andy?
Yeah, I just I see we also have a couple of items in the packet that there's a work plan for the initial report and there's a proposal for the initial report contents. And I believe, is that something that you folks also worked on, and that's a separate agenda item?
Those are independent of the committee. I submitted 2 proposals having to do with how to move forward on our work plan for the initial report and its contents.
Okay.
And I can bring those up when they come up in the agenda. They're not part of the outreach subcommittee. That's just something that I'm proposing to the group.
Great.
And Ken?
I apologize since I missed a recent meeting, if this has been covered already, but in terms of keeping the comments coming in, the online form, I know that any sort of publicity of the initial report will probably motivate some people to go, oh, I never sent my comment in. I imagine we will get a few, but I guess ultimately my question is, have we discussed when we'll close that window of taking public comment?
We have not, as a group,
Okay.
discussed when we're closing that window.
I'm not suggesting that we have that conversation now. I was just curious.
Yeah,
to be sure
it's important, but my initial feeling just off the cuff is that we have a semi-scheduled public forum to be held after preliminary and before final, and that might be I would want to keep things open at least through that. Andy?
Yeah, I would expect we would get a lot of public comment once people can see something concrete. And so I don't know if we use the same, I guess the same form could be available to the public, and we would just append that to all of our, maybe we'd have a separate tab or something for post initial report comments or something like that, or responses to the initial report. But yeah, I think that's when we're going to hear at least as much as we've heard. Well, maybe not as much, but quite a bit, given that people can see something real.
Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah, and that's embedded in the letter. So those details are there.
Okay,
That's
thanks.
right. It's whoever we email this out to, this letter that I'm talking about will contain links to both the report itself. The report itself,
Right.
we're hoping to embed a direct link to the public, public comment. So.
Okay.
Okay, I'm gonna move us to feedback subcommittee.
Before I do that, I just have a question about the agenda. I know that we received a memo from the Collins Center that responds to some of the things we sent them, and is that on the agenda tonight for us to discuss, or is that something is that a topic not anticipated that we would discuss at that point, or are we gonna put that off to another meeting?
In fact, I don't see it on the agenda, so I don't know if maybe when Julian joins can speak to that.
Okay, because that could take some time maybe, but
Yeah,
all right, well, I'll just go ahead with the feedback subcommittee. So the subcommittee met yesterday, and we looked at basically at our last meeting, we had this multiple tab spreadsheet that had sort of all of the votes and the green ones and the red ones and the unresolved ones, which were the white ones, the white list. And at the end of that meeting, we adjusted the green list, and then we sent that to the Collins Center to get their response. And so far, we've heard it back from them about part of that, and they're going to continue to work on it. So we also received a couple more town councilor replies to the survey since we voted. And so those were potentially, those were suggestions that had not been responded to, although some of them duplicated other suggestions that we had already voted on. So we looked through those and added the ones that were not duplicative to the white list, which I can share on my screen if that's helpful. Just to give a sense of what we're talking about. So this is just as a reminder that we have all votes. We have the votes ranked. We had all the ones that were green, and this has been updated to reflect what we sent to the Collins Center. We have the ones that were the red list, which we did not forward. And then we have this list of the white list, which is the ones that there was not a majority, or we had flagged, and now we've added the ones that have not been voted on that had come in after our voting sessions. So in this version, the first column is the ones that are new are indicated with an NV for not voted. So there are, a fair amount in Article 2 and Article 3, Article 5, and then a few in Article 8. So our sense is this is, we were basically just making sure that everything was being considered, and so we now have this list that's unresolved that the committee, we would suggest the committee needs to review and probably vote on the ones that have not been voted on before. So that we might want to have a separate meeting to do that. I don't think we're prepared to do that tonight, or I would doubt that we're prepared to do that tonight. And a number of our members are missing, or several of our members are missing. So, but that's there. You all have a copy of it. It's also the one in the packet is actually the previous version. So this one is dated 10/1/25. I looked at the one in the packet, and that one's dated 9/18. So that was the one we used to discuss at our last meeting. So I don't probably want to replace that with this one or add this one to the packet. But this is the latest one from our collection of stuff. We also added all of the new non-duplicative items to the overall spreadsheet that has tabs for town councilor survey, employee survey, other committee survey, public comment and public input and forums. So those are in there as well, so that we have the full record of what's been submitted and what we've been discussing. That's basically it. We think this is the most updated list of what still remains to be determined, this white list.
Okay, so thanks, Andy. Your suggestion is that we have the discussion about the newly added items in the next meeting.
I mean, we could do it
We're missing
now, but we're missing people, and I think we actually need to vote on them. So I think people should be able to come to a meeting with a list of votes like we did last time, and then we can discuss whatever ones need discussion at that point. But maybe we're unanimous on some of them or whatever.
It would be my suggestion that we take, and hopefully we'll get more stuff back from the Collins Center, that we take this remaining list and the Collins Center report and make that the focus of the next meeting.
Okay.
That'll occupy some time, and I think by that point too, when we get to the piece about the program writing the initial report, I think we'd add that in too. So the next meeting would be busy.
Yes.
I'm just wondering if we want to schedule a separate meeting for voting, so that we can. Maybe we meet next week or something. I'm worried that we're gonna let time go by before we can write the initial report.
Yeah, you're proposing maybe next week having a meeting just on this subject.
I think so. I mean, I'm not really eager to have more meetings, but I think we need it.
Yeah,
No,
understood.
I reluctantly, Andy, I'm agreeing with you.
Ken?
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. I'm absolutely in the same boat. I'm hesitant to do it, but I don't want to take up another meeting that probably needs a lot more other business being taken care of. So we need an extra meeting. It's my vote.
Okay, is this something we want to vote on?
We should.
I'm happy to make a motion that we meet
Hi,
next
Julianne.
Thursday.
We're just to catch you up. Just to catch you up, Julian, what we're discussing is that Andy just did the feedback subcommittee update and talked us through the fact that the spreadsheet now contains some additional feedback that we received through the survey from 2 additional town councilors. And so that needs to be incorporated and voted on. And Andy is motioning that we meet next week to work through and vote on those additional items. And so that it doesn't take up additional space in the following week's meeting, which may be quite busy. That's the motion. Is that right, Andy?
Yes.
To meet next Thursday?
Just to clarify, have we done roll call minutes, public comment?
Yes.
And outreach subcommittee update? Okay,
Yes.
excellent, thank you.
So that was the motion.
I can take over the meeting from here, but I really appreciate it, Erica, thank you. I just got a new computer, which is good. But yes, I guess my only question, was anyone in the middle of asking questions? Did I interrupt anyone? Okay, reviewing that sheet, it seemed like a lot of it was still Counselor Schoen's feedback and some like reworded suggestions that we had heard in the past. Who is the new counselor who submitted feedback, and could you point me to where that might be on the sheet?
All of the, can I just answer that? All of the material that was on the spreadsheet as we received it to vote on contained feedback from all the public feedback, all of the counselor feedback from the staff feedback from the surveys, etc. All of it anonymized. So none of the counselor or other elected officials, staff, whatever, none of it was identified specifically. So what I took results from the survey as they came in anonymized and sent to Andy and the feedback subcommittee, who incorporated into their various spreadsheets. So that's where we're at. We have 2 additional town councilors submitted feedback. That was sent to Andy. That's been incorporated into the spreadsheet. That's what we're talking about.
I have many questions, but I don't want to hold us up, so I'll let us continue. Does the motion have a second?
Second.
Second.
Okay, I'll give that to Bernie. Discussion on the motion, or have we already discussed it?
We have not.
The motion is to meet next week, so.
Oh, okay, to meet with the intent of using that meeting to review this feedback?
And vote.
Okay. Any hands for discussion? Raphael?
So if I'm clear about this, like the push is for us to vote based on the counselor feedback that came in? Or are we also considering like Collins Center feedback?
Mm.
Andy, go ahead.
We won't have Collins Center feedback on the white list because we only sent them the green list.
Okay.
So, but I think that it would probably make sense to go through the entire list and, review our votes and see if anybody, some of these votes are like 8 flags, so I'm trying to see how many there are now. There's somewhere around 40 items, a number of which we've already referred to this list because we didn't come up with a consensus. So, but all of those ones that we voted on, we still need to resolve. So I think in some ways we need to go through each of them. If we voted, but it was like, in some cases there were only 7 votes, in some cases they were flagged because we wanted to do more research. I think we may need to just sort of take another vote on them and decide what flagging mean. Maybe have some sort of template that says, we're voting on this one and we're flagging it to send it to Collins because we can't decide, or we're voting to up or down on it, something like that, so that we can, because we need to resolve all of the ones that we flagged before or that were on this list before. And then we should also, our sense is that we should also give consideration to these ones that have come in from counselors since then, since they're dealing with the charter on a fairly intensive way.
Raphael, you want to respond to that? And then Erica? And then I have a question myself.
Yeah, I think for me, like in terms of what was flagged, like some of the flags were, we need to find out more. We're not clear about whether or not this is charter worthy or not. Having that resolve will be helpful in moving forward with the initial report. While some might feel pressed to include town councilor sort of commentary in this report, I feel like those folks have an opportunity to include that commentary in preliminary report. I think what's pressing now is let's figure out those flags. So it's not a big deal if we weave in the counselor commentary, but I think the flagged element, like let's be clear about whether or not this is charter worthy, is crucial. And I don't know where we are with that in terms of Collins' support.
Yeah, thank you, Raphael. Eric, and then Andy.
There's different buckets or categories of things that could use additional attention. One is there were some remaining undecideds.
Okay.
And there's also going to be this week's and whatever additional Collins feedback will be kind of coming back for us to digest and process. That's another bucket. And then there's some new items which have come in. So it's not, I don't think it's a separate meeting. I don't think of it as just a separate meeting just for the 2 additional items, that surveys that have come in, but that there's enough to to discuss and work through, clearing up those flags or absorbing the Collins feedback and deciding if it alters in whatever way what we want to say about those items. That's
Yeah.
what I think would justify a meeting. That's my opinion.
Okay. Great.
Thank you. Andy, go ahead, and then I have a question.
Yeah, I mean, I think we could go through the list and clarify the flags, and so maybe we have maybe we should have some categories agreed upon in advance where we say, for the ones we've already voted on, it's like, is the vote unclear, or is it flagged because we need, we should put it in the Collins bucket, or is it just that we didn't have a majority either way, and we need to sort of figure out, are we going to put it forward, are we going to push it forward or not? So those ones I think we can clear up fairly easily because, well, maybe I think with some clear buckets for putting stuff in, it's like, is this one we just want to send to the Collins Center because we don't know enough? Or is this one that, having thought about it some more, we can actually, have a vote that pushes it one way or the other? And then, but I really think that it's important to consider the new ones, many of which are technical, some of which have answers for some of the more general proposals that have been given, such as extending time limits for signatures or whatever. So, I think we should resolve those as well before we send out the initial report, because I think that a number of them are technical and fairly easy to say yes or no to, for one thing. And some of them are more specific than some of the general ones that we've been wrestling with. So.
Great.
Yeah, thank you. I think I agree with Raphael mostly. I'll be honest, I joined the meeting a little late, so I'll probably end up abstaining just because I have a few sort of questions understanding what's going on. But the first thing that sort of struck me as interesting was why, like, what we had Counselor Schoen, do we have two individuals from the town council submitting feedback on top of that, or just one? And if so, who are those two or one individual, given that we've made public Counselor Schoen's feedback, Counselor Haneke's feedback, former Counselor Demont's feedback? I don't see why we wouldn't make public these additional one or two people. And then my other question is, I don't know, maybe you could screen share, Andy, I'm not sure, but I just saw mostly Counselor Schoen's feedback and a few reworded suggestions that we already heard. So I'm not sure where in the spreadsheet the new feedback is. Also considering all of this feedback was submitted past our deadline, and we're going to have a preliminary feedback review relatively soon anyway. So I don't know if those questions are answerable. If they are, that would be great. But that's sort of where I'm at. Andy, then Erica?
I'm just trying to pull it up.
Yeah, go ahead. And then Bernie.
So I don't think it matters who submitted it. I mean, I know who it is, but I don't know that we need to focus on that. We got what we have right now is a just because we've gotten memos from several of the counselors. Those are public because they are put into the the materials received bucket. Several other counselors have submitted responses through the survey, and I don't believe they've been publicly identified. There's nothing untoward about any of them submitting. They're all different people, and but I think we should consider all of their comments. The ones that were submitted most recently largely reiterated points that were made by other people that were in our list already. So, you know, the majority of these are from the memo that was received from Councilor Shane. I don't think that should prejudice our consideration of it or should give it undue extra consideration, but they are specific, they are thoughtful, and they are answering some things that have been raised more generally about how the Finance Committee does its work, about how we clarify the power of the president versus the council to make appointments, about how the finance, the budget process should work, what the BCG should do, and there's specific language that's offered that would make that I think is worth considering. So I would hate to see us, arbitrarily leave out specific comments and suggestions from a counselor that's been deeply involved in both the finance and the operations of the charter in the council. So we've got plenty of suggestions that came from one person throughout this list, and so I think it's really important to consider these as informed and useful, potentially technical, but very germane to the actual language of the charter. So this, you can see it here. The ones that have been added are listed as NV, and there are ones that have not been voted on. And I'm trying to remember if any of them. Some of them were shared, like the public participation measures extent. They were more generally spoken in one, and then they were specifically spoken by another.
I have Kathy's feedback right next to me, and I don't see anything new from just that.
This is new for since we voted. That's what I'm saying. We didn't vote. We voted several weeks ago. Actually almost a month ago, and now we've gotten additional feedback, and what we're proposing is that we consider it.
But I only see Kathy's feedback. I don't see any other feedback here. Where's the other counselor's feedback?
If you look through it, it's already reflected in our list.
That's what I'm doing. I have on one tab Counselor Schoen's feedback from the former document. And I have one. And
all of the feedback has been incorporated into the sheet that Andy has shared with us and is also on screen.
I just don't see any feedback besides what was previously.
The feedback that came from the other counselor reinforced some of the questions that were asked previously, and thus is already in our list.
Erica?
I wanted to speak to two things that came up in your question, Julian. One is about the deadline. The survey was left open. We decided that as a group. And so these two counselors responded after the initial deadline, but after the initial deadline passed, we agreed as a group to leave the survey open. So that shouldn't be an issue. And as far as the anonymity of everyone who participated in the survey was offered, and so that's how we transferred all responses to the survey to the feedback subcommittee. They were identified by role. They were identified by whether they were town council or an elected official of some other kind or a town staff. And so that informed how we incorporated them into the larger lists, but no one was brought in from the survey with name attached. If people chose to respond via the public forum, they could choose to attach their name.
Bernie and then Raphael.
The bottom line for me is we have this list. These are all items that need to be disposed of. We need to discuss them. And I think is just going to echo what Raphael said earlier. We need to discuss them. We need to identify whether we want to go further with them, whether we need some expert advice. or whether we're just going to set them aside. But for whatever reason, when we first voted on this list, regardless of who contributed to it, we had some indecision. And indecision is a terrible thing. So let's resolve it. And the best way to do that, in my humble opinion, with Andy, is that we have a separate meeting, we go through this list, we mark stuff up, we put it up and down, we mark it up as we've done with the first larger section, and then move on. If we're lucky, and I'm not sure we will be, we might have some additional information from the Collins Center, and we can incorporate that into the discussion because it may answer some of these, some of the questions or some of the, resolve some of the issues that are on that last page.
Raphael, and then I'm going to try to move us along just because this came out of the feedback subcommittee update. So technically, voting on this isn't even really on the agenda. Raphael?
So I'll say something that we should really think about is just methodology. Yes, we could shift, but we had a process, we had a plan. We weren't clear about our methodology, to be honest, in terms of like timeline matters. We left because of emergency. But I thought like this approach was initial report drawn from initial feedback. Let's figure that out. We're shifting a bit. I'm fine with that, but I think we need to make sure we're documenting and clear about what our methodology is. Because it just helps with this process in terms of here was the plan. Let's follow through with that. And folks can like sort of engage after the initial report, I would say, but let's just be clear about what our methods have been and make sure that's documented.
Andy?
I don't think it's a huge issue, but I think in terms of what we said we were going to do, it's tweaked a bit in terms of our process.
Thanks, Raphael. Andy?
I think our process was that we were going to try to produce an initial report that had everything we had so that people could respond to it, and that we would then, I think, adding additional items that have not been to the mix after we do the initial report means that people can't react to those till after the preliminary report. And I really think it would be best if we get an initial report out that has everything in it that we've got, and that we should decide on everything that we've received, so that then people can react to everything that's in the initial report, and then the preliminary report is our response to that, and then hopefully it's mostly just copy editing after that, rather than trying to come up with a whole nother wave of suggestions in the preliminary report that people haven't seen, and then we're still wrestling with comments on new things for the public. So my interest would be to try to get all of these things resolved now, so that we don't have to move the goalposts again in the preliminary report and give new things that haven't been exposed to the public before then. So that's why I think it's important to resolve these things now. And I think I agree that we didn't have a methodology. When we were voting, we didn't know what flagging meant, and we didn't, we had 1, 2, and 3, but it sort of meant different things to different people, and perhaps. But I think we muddled through. But now we have some things that we haven't resolved, and I'd just as soon get everything resolved before we do the initial report, so that we don't have to come back with unresolved things for the preliminary report. And
I don't want to stay too long here. I don't want to stay too long. I don't want to stay too long here, but
Go ahead, Raphael.
in terms of like process, documentation of process, there was some discussion around what flag meant. And my only questioning of this is for us to be really cognizant of, like, our process, we need to be really clear. Like, if someone were to put forth more feedback now, should we include that tonight? Should we include it in our sort of voting next week? And I'm just sort of playing around with us needing to be more, we need to be like really clear about our process. And a new wave could still come in, Andy, after preliminary report, for the preliminary report. Folks still have a chance to share more
Yes, but I mean, they should be responding to what we've seen, what we've gotten, rather than they could say, this is missing. Why didn't you put that in? And we would take that. But I mean, to not have people review specific suggestions that have come in. I mean, I agree that we should probably say, as of now, we're not taking anything new because we're going to start voting
For
on
the initial report.
for the initial
For the
report.
initial-
And we should stop taking new things now beyond what we have already, and we should start working on the report. But I think what we have now includes useful things that should be exposed to the public. And I just also wanted to respond to Julian's questions. The things that came up in the other counselors' report included term limits for counselors and term limits for the council president, which we already have in our list. Consider making the planning board and ZBA elected positions, which we also have in our list. And then, what is this one? It was about council appointments to boards, commissions, and committees, which also is listed in our in the items that we've already voted on.
So this other counselor who shall not be named's feedback
None
is,
of the counselors are named.
well,
None
we're
of the
not,
counselors are named in our spreadsheet.
well,
Just
we're
like to make that
refusing
really
to
clear.
say who this counselor is, which we haven't done for the past.
I haven't named any of the counselors is my point. I'm not singling out anyone special.
I'm
everyone-
speaking, so let me finish and then I'll call on you.
It's the third
Uh,
time you've characterized the process incorrectly. That's why I was interrupting.
I'm characterizing, I don't know who the other counselor is, and we've suddenly are saying, so I'm saying the counselor who shall not be named because we don't know who they are, and we've named everyone else who submitted feedback.
No, we have not.
We have not.
Yes, we, as who are town councilors? Yes, I believe so.
No, we
we
have
have
not.
Who else have we not? Let's make that public too. In the name of transparency, let's make it all public.
If the counselor has elected to submit their comments through the public forum, they chose to name themselves and that name can be attached. If they responded to our survey, they had the option to respond anonymously, and not only that, we anonymized everyone who responded to the town official and staff survey was anonymized, everyone.
Correct, but the public deserves to know who of town councilors, what their town councilors are standing for and advocating for. That's different than a town worker or a member of the public. Their town councilors are elected positions, and it's appropriate that we as a committee make known what they believe and are submitting to us. That's seems like
No,
pretty
that's not
basic
true at all.
transparency.
We offered them the option to not list their names. We can probably figure out who they are, but that would be going against what we said we would, that they could respond, with their name or without it. So as Erica says, if people chose to submit a memo, that was public. If they chose to vote in the survey, they're not named, and it doesn't really matter. I mean, these it's not one wing of the council or another. There's a variety of perspectives, and they're all trying sincerely to say, here's what's working and what's not. So it doesn't matter who they are. If it's a good idea, it's a good idea. If it's not, it's not. And, we should take all of them under consideration.
I agree we should take all of them under consideration, but the
That's what we're
public should
asking
know
for.
what their counselors stand for. And I can't vote for something if the public doesn't know what their counselors are actually advocating for. That's not
That may be your particular stance.
That's
I
what I'm advocating.
what we're proposing is a process here to get all of the feedback into a form that we can vote on and dispose of it one way or another, which is our charge. So I think we should, figure out what we're doing next.
I agree. And so I'll finish my comment as I was interrupted, and then I'll call on Bernie and Erica. So I guess that's my first concern about the process, since it seems like that whoever that counselor is, who I don't know who they are, but whoever it is, their feedback has already been discussed and incorporated in some way.
Yep.
So we're really just discussing Counselor Schoen's feedback here.
Why does that matter?
Because we already decided or discussed as a committee to say that we had some time to consider her suggestions, and now we're moving along. The process has ended, and I understand some folks on this committee, for whatever reason, would like to specifically include Counselor Schoen's feedback, but I don't think it's appropriate. The time in the process for that has passed, and now we're on to the next step. Bernie?
I would think by this point, the chair would notice that he's lost the argument that we shouldn't include additional comments that we received from counselors, whether it's Schoen or someone else who I don't know either, and I don't care. We have to dispose of, in the way we've managed all the other discussions, this last set, these so-called white sheets, have to be resolved. We need to be able to say why, what our understanding was, if it's a flag and we flagged it, why were we concerned, and move through it and move on. We're going to use this last piece of paper to either send off to the Collins Center or not, pieces of it, and it's going to go into the preliminary report. So I think we just need to stop dancing around the committee, the motion on the floor. The committee, the members of the committee are free at any point in time to make any relevant motion, whether it's on the agenda or not. The motion that's on the floor is that we meet next week to discuss and resolve the items on this list. Now, I'm going to call the question.
Sounds good. Let's vote on it. I will start with you, Bernie.
I vote aye.
Okay, myself, I'm a no. I personally cannot make the meeting anyway. Erica?
Yes.
Andy?
Yes.
Raphael?
Yes.
Ken? Okay, I'm taking that as a yes. Let's move on to our next agenda item, which
Well, we
Erica?
we have to
Figure
pick
out.
a date and time for the meeting.
Huh?
We need to pick a date and time for the meeting.
Oh,
We
okay.
have to do that while we're in session.
I thought it was proposed to be next week.
Now, we can do this as a ministerial thing and send emails all over the place, or a doodle poll, or we can just say right now, in the next couple of minutes, who's available when. So
Okay, sure, let's do that. I thought that we had already proposed doing it next Thursday, but maybe that was inferred. Do we want to go around and say what times work for people? I am busy on Thursday. I could do a different day.
I can do any day, other than Friday, probably.
Bernie?
I'm available pretty much through the week.
Okay. Erica?
Wednesday night an option.
Possibly I could probably do Wednesday.
Yeah.
Raphael?
Yeah, I could do Thursday at 6:30, or I can't do Wednesday. I could also do Tuesday at 6:30.
Okay. I have a meeting on Tuesday at 6:30. Ken?
Can I share something,
Yeah,
Julian?
please.
We have to figure out the flagged element, so hopefully you're in a mix. A
Mhm.
lot of discussion about council members, additional input, but that piece of it, let's figure out the flagged elements, is crucial
I agree.
in terms of timing.
Completely agree.
And that's why I said, yes, we need to get that work done.
Yep, I agree. The flag needs to be done. I agree. Ken?
Thursday, not Wednesday.
Okay. So correct me if I'm wrong, 6 o'clock on Thursday.
I can't do 6, I have to do
Okay.
6:30.
Is Tuesday a possibility or no? For everybody?
It might be for other people. I have a public shade tree committee meeting Tuesday.
So who do we have?
We're missing, just for the record, Meg and Marcus right
Correct.
now.
So maybe,
Also, we need to consult Athena.
Correct. How do folks feel about doing? I wouldn't personally be able to make it. I have a meeting. But how do folks feel about doing 7 o'clock on Thursday?
That works for me. That also gives us plenty of time to post the meeting. Don't worry about timeframes.
6:30, 7, whatever, it doesn't,
We don't have Athena, I don't know if she's present or she's gone off.
Can we,
To confirm that that's an available time because we need the technology.
we also need to
Go
find
ahead.
out about
Go ahead.
Marcus and Meg.
Go ahead, Andy.
We need to find out about Marcus and Meg too.
can we just do show of hands if it were to be Thursday 7, who could make it? Okay.
Raphael, did you still have a question?
I don't know if this is plausible, but in terms of meeting time and resolving, I think the Collins Center support around flagged items matters. So I don't know if we'll have to meet again to resolve. I don't know what that element, that part of this, I don't know where that is. Andy has his own.
Could we invite the Collins Center to come to that meeting?
Sure.
To give us help resolving on the fly? I mean, it might be that we say, hey, is this something we can hand off to you? And they would say, sure. Or they would say, well, here's, I don't know. I mean, it might help clarify things to have them there if what we're trying to do is resolve some things that puzzled us without them.
Yeah. Raphael?
Ideally, it would be good for them to sort of do the work before, not in the moment, but guide us, tell us. But I don't know about their timeline. But I think that's something that we said we were going to try to figure out for the initial report. So we might have to meet again to make our final whatever without their feedback. If they don't give us the feedback, I think there's still flagged items out there.
Well,
Go ahead.
right now they have the green list that they're working their way through.
Okay.
So we could say stop working on that and send them the wait list and say, this is what we're going to be talking about next week.
Mhm.
Are there items on that you could advise us on, or would you like to prep for a meeting that you would attend to help us think through some of these things to see that, if we sent that to them, tonight or tomorrow morning, they would have a week or 4 days or whatever to at least prepare to advise us on some of the ones that have been sticky for us.
Okay.
Erica?
Alternatively, they have responded to Articles 1 and 2 so far on the initial list, and they're working through the rest of the material that we sent them, which may in fact come back before a meeting that would be held next week. And so those materials could be worked through in our committee meeting next week. The flagged items, in fact, might benefit from an additional pass or filtering from us before we package them up and send them to Collins, because there was some vagueness around why people flagged certain things. Was it for additional discussion among ourselves? Was it for additional consultation from Collins? Or was it some third thing? So, like a lack of clarity. So it might benefit from putting time on that meeting to discuss the things that have come back from Collins, the things that we greenlit, right? And then also process some of the flagged things before they go to Collins so that we're super clear and concise about what it is we're asking for, as opposed to just dumping a bunch of stuff on them saying, please help. So I think there's like work to be done in both categories. That doesn't negate the good work that could be done in a meeting next week on
Mhm.
both counts.
Mhm.
Andy?
So just building on that, would we start with clarifying the ones that we were unclear on the white list at the beginning of the meeting, so we make sure we get through those, and we could then send those to Collins after that meeting, and then we would move in whatever time we had left to start reviewing what they've said about 1 and 2, the articles 1 and 2.
Yeah.
Sounds appropriate to me.
I think it would be important to list as soon as possible the agenda, because we've said many different things that could be on that agenda for next week, is to list what categories of things we're going to try to get through in that time.
Do you want to propose an agenda? We could write it down now.
Well, it's the working through the Collins feedback, working through the additional suggestions that have come into this spreadsheet before October 1st, excuse me. And doing some additional definition or filtering on the flagged items before they can be sent off to Collins for additional feedback. Those are the 3 things I heard.
And I heard, sorry,
Yeah, go right ahead.
I heard them in that maybe we could attack them in reverse order. So the flagged items that we've already flagged that we need clarification. So to make sure that we understand why we flagged them and what we want from them. And then the additional suggestions that have come in before October 1st. And then the Collins feedback on the stuff that we've already voted on that we sent them.
That makes sense to me. I think as long as we also have a section, we have 4 more things in section 8, just we need to clarify on if we're including or not. So as long as those get included, I think that makes sense to me.
So already flagged items, additional suggestions, and then the feedback memo that we've received so far. And they may send more by next week.
Great.
Yep.
Sounds good.
Just to review, we're gonna, 5 people here said they could come Thursday, but that's, we still don't know about 2, and Julian can't attend. So are we proposing that date and time to Athena to see if it's available, or are we still looking for a consensus time?
I thought,
We could try going to the next week and early, like a Tuesday in the following week, if that would help more people attend. I don't know.
Tuesday the following week works perfectly well for me.
And we could meet Tuesday and Thursday or something.
Yep. That's probably what it would be, but it works for me.
I don't want to exclude anybody from this process, but I'm really concerned about our timeline and how, keep in mind, this process in part is to prepare things to send to Collins for feedback, waiting for feedback, incorporating feedback, and writing report are still pending. So it ends up being a lost week. I don't want to exclude anybody from anything, but I'm just
hear
really
what Eric is
concerned.
saying. I would agree. I would rather you all just meet.
Is there?
I would say let's go for Thursday. Hopefully Marcus can join in. But as it is, we have a quorum and we can move forward on this. Going back over this list, there's some stuff that I think we can just toss out. There's some stuff we're going to have to debate, and there's some stuff that is in great need of clarification. You know, you want more counselors or few counselors? Is that something we even want to argue? So, you know, that might take some time. But let's try for Thursday.
I'm fine with trying for Thursday. I'll see if I can move my schedule around to attend. I'm not sure if I can, but even if it's part of the meeting.
Julian, would you like me to reach out to Athena?
I'm happy to.
Okay,
And then Meg and Marcus.
Sure. Yeah, I can reach out to them. I'll send a sort of all blast email to the committee.
Great.
before we move to the next agenda item, I just have two quick questions, Julian. One is, we meant to ask you when you got back online at the beginning of the meeting, but we're unclear on who's taking minutes.
Oh, for today, it is, I believe it was Marcus's day. So who would be next is Bernie,
Okay, thanks.
right? No problem.
And the other thing was just a sort of housekeeping thing.
Yep.
The recording of the retreat
Yes,
was discussed at a previous time, and I wanted to ask you about it because in that retreat, we took a lot of time discussing each item, voting on each item, and we did voice votes. In other words, we were called on individually to record our votes, and that got recorded, but the recording didn't make it to be uploaded. And I wanted to just follow up about that.
correct. I have a recording on my phone, and Marcus has one on his whatever that's called. And basically it's just too large a file to send out. So I need to talk to some technology person to get it actually out there. But once I'm able to do that, I'll send it hopefully to Athena to be posted on the town website.
Great. Just wanted to clarify that that exists.
Yes, it exists. Yes,
Thank
it does.
you.
The problem is it exists on my phone and it needs to be
Totally understood. Yep.
Raphael?
Along the same lines, we also talked about the minutes for that meeting. Plan, approach, thoughts. We were supposed to split it. Where are we with that?
Yeah, the recording was going to be split so that because it was several hours, it was going to be split up among several members to record, but we haven't got sounds like we have to figure out a technological piece about the recording, and then we can do minutes based on it.
Yeah. But we talked about like sharing the
Yes,
minute. Yeah, so to be determined, I guess.
I think so.
All right, great.
Excellent. Would we like to move to the next agenda item?
Yes.
Great. So we did all the minutes, Erica?
So the minutes were deferred because the July 24th minutes are the only ones that were submitted out of those three, and it was still in a packet from August. And so the committee members didn't feel like they had access to it to vote. And the other two were coming from Meg, who wasn't able to attend tonight, and I think her submissions didn't make it to the packet in time.
Okay, I thought she submitted one, but maybe she didn't submit the other. We'll do it next week. We're very behind, but that's okay. And next we have work plan for the initial report. This is something you requested on the agenda, Erica?
Yes, I submitted two proposals. One is for, and this is not an outreach committee thing, this is just something I'm proposing. A sort of plan of work for how to complete the initial report, and separately a proposal for what the contents of the initial report should be, neither of which we've discussed at great length. And so I wanted to sort of put these in front of us for discussion and for vote. They kind of go together, and I think what we've just decided about our additional meeting and process will impact them. So just keeping that in mind, but maybe it makes sense to discuss the contents of the initial report first.
Sure.
Yeah, we
Okay, could I share my screen?
Go right ahead. I'm
Thank you.
as long as it has permission.
Mhm. So this is in the packet. It's what I've posted. So we've had a general understanding that their initial report is going to be a version of the sort of the table that we've been working through, but I wanted to kind of specify, put that in writing somehow and have us agree, because there may be some other descriptive parts that we want to include. And so this is my proposal for what this could include. Excuse me, if we have a table of recommended changes, it may be that we want to that we may want to stop at a certain point in order to deliver a report and then continue to add things in the preliminary report. And I just want to ask people to hold that idea open, that it may be that our initial report is what we can get through at a said deadline,
yeah.
as opposed to extending that deadline until we've got every last thing, because we have additional opportunities to report out. The initial report can focus on modifications to the charter itself, and we have relevant annotations as to why we're making those recommendations, how feasible they are, what it would take to get them done, or whatever else we want to say, however else we want to annotate them. Aside from that, which is the meat of the report, we have some opportunities to speak about our process and how we got here. And I think it's going to be important because we're really pushing for, public engagement at this point to describe how we came up with the recommendations that we did. So I think we could, for instance, include a description of how this initial report was created, who had input, in other words, what were, what entities or what individuals or what mechanisms were consulted. We could summarize the work of each subcommittee. What things are still being considered? So if in the scenario that I was just describing, where we stop at a certain point, and that we have certain set of suggestions that we're still considering, we could describe that. And that if we've decided that they didn't make it to the very initial report because they didn't have sufficient votes, but we haven't decided how we're going to address those things which were suggested but didn't rise to the level of a charter amendment, for example, we can describe that. We can describe the recommendations that we heard repeatedly but aren't charter amendments or revisions, but they're other kinds of recommendations that we want to make. And we can describe in this section that there's additional public feedback to come that will appear in future versions. Again, to Raphael's point earlier about process and methodology and being super clear about all that, that's what these additional sections would be for. And what happens next, describing next steps, what are the opportunities for additional feedback, participation, and a timeline, and letting people know that after the preliminary report, there will be a public forum and an opportunity to engage. So we can debate any of this, but this is my proposal for what could be useful content to respond to, not just the recommendations themselves, the table itself, but what could support that content in the best way possible.
Yeah.
Bernie?
Yeah, I like the framework, and thank you, Erica, for taking the initiative to do this. The only thing I would suggest, and you feel free to accuse me of nitpicking, is that because this is the initial report, where we have a table of recommended changes, we make that clear that this is an initial effort. That this is not, these are under consideration. This list will be formed up for the final report. Because we'll probably put things in there that we're going to want to take out at some point, or put, or miss some nuance somewhere. So we feel better if we said these are our initial recommended changes, or our preliminary recommended changes. So that gives us a little bit of wiggle room for the future reports. But overall, the framework and the thought behind it is solid, and I think we should go with it.
Thanks, Bernie.
Raphael?
Yeah, thanks for submitting this. I think it'll be helpful. I think it's important for us to grapple with the rationale piece and be clear about what rationale was in this initial phase. So worth a conversation.
You mean the rationale as in the sense of what's in the table for
Yeah.
rationale for specific
Yeah.
changes?
Yeah. How do we?
Sorry.
uh,
Ken?
Oh, is this initial report a place to include an addendum of all the submitted comments? I know that the proposed changes, I'm trying to like put myself in the place of somebody who submitted a comment, and I don't see my comment in the proposed changes, assuming that was an actual charter comment and not a rules or values statement. Their reaction will be, hey, where's my comment? So maybe I'm asking two things, but I'm curious, is the initial report a place to put the addendum of like the white sheet or the master sheet, so to speak, whatever we're calling the huge list of everything that came in? Is this a place for that, or are we going to keep it shorter?
I would think we incorporate it by reference, have it on the website, and let people know that it's there. In that, because we're going to get more comment. Once this report comes out, we'll get more comment, so there'll be more added to it. I think if we give people a place that they can go and refer to it and look at it, and that should be sufficient. I don't think that we want to append 40 some odd pages of comments to the initial report. I think people will short out and not read it.
Raphael and then Andy?
Yeah, I agree with Bernie. Access to, but not here. And wondering, Erica, if it's worthwhile, like noting the data set, like number of responses. Maybe it's too much, but I think at some point we might have to grapple with that. It's important information to share.
For sure.
Thanks, Andy.
Yeah, I agree. That I think that we have the spreadsheet that has the 5 different tabs of all the input that we got. So that can be a reference that's on the website. People can see their information there, and if they don't see it, they can tell us. But I hope they would see it, and we can count from that the number of responses. I had one question about in the what is still being considered section, Erica. When you're talking about additional I understand recommendations that were heard repeatedly but do not necessarily correspond to a specific article within the charter. So we've heard a lot about transparency, or we've heard a lot about, I don't know, that's the one that comes to mind.
Yeah.
Additional recommendations that did not receive sufficient votes. So those are ones that were on our initial list, but we did not choose to put them forward because a majority of the committee or the majority of the voting members did not support them. So are you suggesting that we list all of those too somehow, or address them, or what is that? What is the additional recommendations that did not receive sufficient votes mean?
So I think what I was thinking there is that that remains to be fleshed out. In other words, there's a set of suggestions that didn't receive enough votes, and therefore they didn't move forward in this part of the process, but that we may want to have some descriptive language around what that means, so that, because voting wasn't necessarily part of the inherently part of the work that we were going to do. We decided to do voting as part of our process for winnowing down, but we should be descriptive about what that means in our reporting out of our process. Like, we voted based on XYZ criteria, and we felt like this set of suggestions, while worthy, didn't get included because whatever. I just mean we should attend to them, and it doesn't have to be necessarily one by one, because some of the suggestions we received weren't substantive enough, but some were, and we each had reasons why we didn't vote to advance them. And so I don't mean itemize necessarily, but that we should have some descriptive language about criteria.
Thank you. Yeah, I agree. This is a great proposal, Erica. So thank you for your work on this.
Okay. It kind of goes hand in hand with the other part of my proposal, which is a timeline for how to get this done. But I would like to vote on it, just in whatever way. We can vote on them separately or together. But I can talk through my timeline as well.
Why not you talk through your timeline and we can vote on them together just for the sake of time?
Yep. Okay, this is what I'm sharing as a proposal for the writing work plan. It's kind of accelerated. So some of the dates might have to be revised based on what we were talking through earlier. But it is still useful to talk through it as a plan. So this is starting with our meeting tonight. The idea was, could we, in order to not try to write this as 8 people in a meeting, which is hard to do, as an example, nominate 2 people, 1 person from each subcommittee as an example, to be in a writing work group. And that the committee would then have to also approve an outline of what would be included in the initial report. That's what we just went through. So if those 2 things are approved, like who's doing it and what's included, we have ourselves a good start. I'm imagining this is pushed back, okay, because we've added an additional meeting next week to discuss some additional items and to incorporate Colin's feedback and everything else. A writing work group drafts an initial report based on that outline, and distributes a draft to the committee members in advance of a meeting. It's probably not going to be the October 16th meeting, given everything. But at that meeting, if committee members have had an opportunity to review the draft initial report and its sort of subsections and descriptive paragraphs, we could conceivably discuss and vote to accept or reject the draft with some amendments or recommendations for revisions. Following that, in short order, I think the writing work group could incorporate any last edits from that meeting and then submit the report. Again, if these dates change, they change, but I'm also proposing as part of this that we could then, if this was on this timeline, the idea was skip a meeting and add it to the following week and potentially invite counselors. This was part of the outreach subcommittee outreach plan for post-initial report, to invite counselors to our committee meeting with a wider invitation to the public as well, to make a big push to have people come and have a conversation about it. Again, dates can change, but that's the sequence that I want to discuss.
Excellent. This seems good to me. Did you still plan to nominate someone tonight, or would we want to do that at our meeting next week?
I'd love to hear feedback from everybody else about what, because our meeting took a different turn given our discussion about adding a meeting for next week. So I would love to hear thoughts on this just as a plan in general.
Yeah, again, it makes, it makes good sense, the way things unfold. The devil is always is in detail, and but I think, this is, again, in terms of phases and process, this is fine.
Excellent. Raphael, and then did you have a question?
Yeah, thanks again, Erica. Looks great. I think in terms of like who, capacity and comfort matter. So just keeping that in mind.
Yeah.
Important part of this process.
I'm also mindful that we don't have, like I said earlier, 2 members are not here, so.
Yeah.
Andy?
Yeah, I like this a lot. I think, that we can shift the dates as needed, but I think it would be great. I think it would, if we could identify a writing work group, then those people could be looking at what we already have, reviewing what's come back from Collins, and then they'd probably want to wait until after next week's meeting to really dig in. But I think to know who those people were and to have them know who they are might be helpful.
Yeah, I think this is a great plan. Ken?
I would suggest, maybe it's nothing that needs to be formalized at the moment, but with this setup of one person from each subcommittee, which I'm totally fine with, maybe a third person that could sit, obviously is going to sit on one of those committees, but can be a third person who looks at a draft and just acts as a copy editor or a proofreader, in case something's been missed just out of the creation process. It's just something I do at work. I always send my work off to somebody else who hasn't been in the trenches with me, and they catch things all the time. So that's just a suggestion as part of the work group. I think Andy used that word.
I completely agree. I think that it would be appropriate to have maybe 2 people on the work group and then 1 person who reviews it. Do folks feel comfortable nominating tonight and voting, or Raphael?
Yeah, I like to start with folks volunteering, maybe, if that's okay. But I don't know in terms of like the writing that will be a part of this group. If perhaps, yes, I know somebody said, or we talked about one person sort of doing the editing. Maybe that could be more than one, just to have people in the mix from early on, collaborating on the writing, and more folks involved.
Sure. Erica?
Part of why I thought, and it may not work out this way, is the committee is basically the proofreading.
Yeah, okay.
In other words, in an ideal world, like the committee is where the discussion and approval or not is going to happen. And so,
Yeah. Makes sense.
I mean, of course, it's just harder to do copy editing in large group, but I think as a group, I trust us to catch, if we have it in advance of a meeting and not like the night before, to catch things that could be said better, or that could be clarified, or that could be emphasized or de-emphasized in whatever way.
Okay. I hear that.
I'll make the motion to approve both of these. Both the document you just shared as well as our timeline. Do I have a second?
Second.
Great. Can we vote on it or do we have additional discussion? Ken, I saw your hand up for a minute.
My only,
Um,
oh, sorry, Ken, go ahead.
Yep, sorry, yeah, sorry. I don't feel that strongly about this, Erica, but I think it's gonna be a big time-consuming mess, really, to have the full committee try to copy edit this thing. And as a copy editor or a proofreader, I certainly am not suggesting that they have like committee empowerment to say no, yes, more like, hey, just to be sure you guys thought about this, or there might be something missing here, what do you think? Not this is the way it's going to go, more of just feedback. The proofreader should not take any sort of place whatsoever of the committee, not even remote of that level of power or responsibility. And I totally welcome Raphael's comment about having a couple more people, having a couple people be proofreaders in this. And this doesn't have to be a formal part of the process. We don't have to. I don't think we have to change the plan that you've that we're voting on. It doesn't have to be quite that formal, so we can move ahead with the vote.
I think long and short, the committee's going to have to vote to accept the report and send it. So the more refined it gets before it gets to the committee, but as a whole, that would be better.
I have no objection to that.
Right. Neither do I. Other comments before we vote?
One quick comment, which is the need to potentially adjust dates. If we're going to motion and vote to approve these, just to be super clear, the dates may have to be revised after the vote.
That's fine. Myself, I'm an I. Bernie,
Aye.
Raphael,
Yes.
Erica,
Yes.
Andy,
Yes.
and Ken.
Yes.
Excellent. All right. I guess we can move on to our discussion on Articles 8 through 10.
Are we going to see if anyone wants to volunteer?
Oh, yes, sorry. Yes. Do we have any volunteers for filling these two seats? Just raise your hand on Zoom or on with your hand.
I just know that I can't do it.
That's fine. No problem.
I would nominate Ken.
I would second that nomination.
Are you
Ken's a communication guy, and he's
are you willing to, Ken? I agree.
he's on our committee.
Ken is in
Ken-
reverse right now.
Sorry.
He suddenly went
Yeah,
dark.
sorry. I'm not turning my cabin light on while I drive. It's going to be distracting.
Absolutely.
So I am here.
It
You might
went
see my
dark.
glasses. You see my glasses, I think. So I am
He's-
here.
He's in the dark, all right. Yeah.
I am in the dark.
Be careful.
I'm better off in the dark. Thanks. That's my son giving me some light.
But we actually is it okay for people to think about it? Is
Sure. I think that's appropriate.
No, I think
Let
it's
Ken
a
get
staff
home
decision.
safely without us interfering.
It's like having kids. If you thought about it, it might not happen.
Speak for yourself, Andy.
Hey.
Oh.
Sorry, Andy.
That was good. That was good. I appreciate you all bringing some humor to my night. All right. So let's move along. Yeah.
Do we have anybody from the communication? Oh, we don't. Yeah, anybody from the communication? I mean, the outreach side.
Let's think about it. Unless Erica wants to volunteer.
Sounds like Raphael's considering.
Erica has her hand up.
Erica?
So if there's an awkwardness to semi-volunteering for a process that I just proposed, but as far as this goes towards the initial report, I would be willing to be part of this writing work group if the committee wants that.
I would feel very
fine with
comfortable.
that. I'm
No.
fine. with it. Sounds good.
All light in Erica's room.
All in favor. Okay.
Well,
Motion to
Erica's- well, we have to get kind of fall off the fence. And then we can go forward with this, I think. But I really do appreciate all the work that's gone into this, and that I've seen some stuff that Ken has done, and some Erica's made some significant contributions, and I think those two folks would be great to start this off.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, Ken brought us the framework the Framingham framework that's going to shape a lot of the report. So
Ken's
Sorry.
here.
I would like to motion, I would like Ken to be safely at home before he volunteers or is voluntold to do it.
Yeah, that's what it feels like, a voluntold situation. Thank you, Erica.
I agree.
Well, he's
I-
he's driving. He may just keep going and not stop.
Oh, you don't know if I'm driving towards Amherst or away from Amherst.
Yeah. Let us know how Pennsylvania is.
He's speeding away from the committee.
We need to put a little tracker on his car. Okay. So
I'm
let's
strongly considering it, just for the record.
Oh, that's good,
Excellent.
because I
Thank
can't, I
you.
can't do it alone, that much I know.
I may reach out to you, Erica, just
Okay.
to bounce something off you.
That sounds good.
Great.
Okay.
So let's, I guess, consider our next agenda item, articles 8 through 10. I believe there's just 3 things to quickly clarify if we want to include or not. Would we mind screen sharing? I don't have it up. Would someone mind?
what are we considering?
Just the 3 things that we were in the middle of but didn't get to vote on last time, in Article 8. And maybe one thing in Article 10.
What were we working from?
Your spreadsheet. Not the most recent one, the
The
one
one from the
or that with the white. It should be in the packet.
Yeah, it is.
somebody want to share it or?
Yeah, that's what I was asking. I don't have access to share it.
Let's see. Okay. I think I can share.
Thanks so much. So we'll discuss that, and then that'll probably round out our night.
This was, all right, yeah, what is,
It was white. I believe
all right, so 8,
8, yes.
here's 8.
And it was a few things that we had. Yeah, it was. We were going to, I believe it was in your all whites column on the spreadsheet, that we were debating whether to send to Collins or not. There was one about translation, 2 about voter veto signatures, and I believe one more about
I'm sorry, let me share,
Mine?
let me find
That's
the
okay.
one that,
And then there was the transition provision at the end. There was one there. So total of probably 5 things.
Well, there's, if we look at the sheet that we're going to be considering at the next meeting, we have simultaneous translation, add to measures ineligible for voter veto, delete exception to voter veto provision, delete section on measures ineligible for voter veto, and then voter veto timelines and process. So if we're, that's what we've got tagged as unresolved for our next meeting.
I can bring up,
We
I
have
can bring up
nothing
the white one.
Yeah, we have nothing under Article 9, nothing under Article 10.
Perfect. Great.
Right, so here it is. One second.
So we could take this up now, or we could take it up next week.
I think it's
We
better
can
to
look
get
at
ahead.
it.
of- It's on the agenda anyway to take it up now, and it's the last of that group of feedback. So,
So this is the section 8, you're saying?
yep, I believe it's right here. And if there's, Bernie just said there's nothing under 9 and 10, so that's perfect.
Right.
Great. So I guess we can discuss and revote. So I will make the motion actually just for the sake of time to include all of these in what we send to Collins. So to send all 4 of these to Collins. Do I have a second?
Second.
Great. And let's any discussion on the motion? Yeah, go ahead.
Why we had, so on what basis are we sending these on? Because they received a majority of the people vote of the non-abstentions, is that it?
Correct. That's my
But
rationale. I do also would just add that this just means putting them in the green column, and Collins hasn't reviewed section 8 yet at all. So this would just be adding 4 things when they go through it.
It looks like the second and the third ones in section 8 are, oh, let's see. They're different. Okay, yeah.
Well, the question would be around the voter veto stuff. Is is there any, what would it take to change those? Is there any rationale for changing those, for one? And is there, and what would it take to change it? Would it take legislation? Would it take just a council vote? Would there be, do we need a special legislation? Or, these are all areas that I'm the voter veto stuff. I'm not familiar with it at all, so I can't offer comments. The yes or no, the simultaneous translation of all official meetings, that strikes me as something that's not necessarily part of, can be added to the chart. I think that's something that we would have to endeavor to do, either as a policy or as a change to the council rules. I did some research, and this the technology right now that's available for this is hit or miss. And Westfield, I know Westfield got mentioned. Westfield doesn't have simultaneous translation, at least not. They don't talk about it on their website. They talk about the services they offer to hearing impaired. But nothing about simultaneous translation. So that's a technology issue and a professional practice issue, not a charter issue. So I would feel comfortable sending the voter veto stuff to Collins, asking them to comment on it. The simultaneous translation is a great idea, but to me it isn't the kind of a matter that would be included in the charter.
Other comments, questions, Andy?
The last 2 of these are the same thing: deleting the exceptions to the voter veto provision, and deleting the section on measures ineligible. Those are actually exactly the same.
Mm-hmm.
I was just going to say that. Other questions, comments before? Erica?
I remember having an extensive conversation about the translation issue, and I don't remember if we were just using it as an example and never arrived at a conclusion, or why it's come up again. Because I remember we talked about it at length.
Well, right now it looks like the votes are 4 yes and 3 no. So
Correct. And we never had made a decision. We discussed it as an example, but we never made a decision. Ken?
I recall that in the, maybe it was the library, the retreat, that somebody thought that Westfield did it, and then it was reviewed, and actually Westfield doesn't do it. So this seems like it's somewhat of a precedent that we'd be setting.
I did
Here, but just-
recall that I did say that. I believe it was Southwick, not Westfield, that did it.
Oh, sorry,
But
sorry, okay.
we could just be researching the wrong town, or I could be incorrect.
No, that's my
I'll
geographic.
bet you $5 Southwick doesn't do that. I mean, I know the moderator in Southwick, the Southwick town meeting, they don't do that. So, you know, it's right. The imperative right now is to be able to have translation for the hearing impaired. And that's, you know, that I think is embedded in the law.
translation or just amplification?
Yeah, no, it's you should be able to get somebody to sign. But that you know, I think that's not a matter of the charter. That's a matter of either practice or general law. I'm not sure which. And I think the simultaneous translation of all official meetings, at least to Spanish. You know, if you look at the demographics of town, it would probably be Chinese. Mandarin would be the largest used language. I don't see that as a charter issue. I see that as a constituent service issue that's technology dependent, and that it's a goal.
Erica?
I don't see this as a charter issue either. However, I feel like we went around this circle before, and if it's a matter of sending it on to Collins in order to get get clarity on is this somewhere else? Is there some precedent for it or not? And is there some way to phrase it so that it is charter appropriate? Then I would just say, let's just move it on. I don't think we need to debate it anymore right now because there's a big question as to whether it fits into a charter or not. We have a difference of opinion.
I personally think it does. I understand some people think it doesn't. Other questions before we vote? You want to take your hand down, Erica, unless you have another?
Yep.
Great. Okay, I don't see anything else. I will start with Raphael.
Yes.
Andy.
Sure.
Erica.
Yes.
Myself, I'm an I. Bernie.
Yes.
Ken.
Yes.
Excellent. These will all be sent to Collins. Sounds good.
So just a process question. Are we then going to move these to the green list or
Yes.
to an additional green list kind of thing?
Exactly. Yep.
Okay. So do
Mhm.
that.
Great, thank you. Okay, so we are now moving on to community feedback on initial report. You sort of
I'm
discussed
sorry,
this.
just one
Sorry.
more clarification before
Yeah,
we do
please.
that. Because the last two are duplicative, I'm suggesting that we would just do the first three.
Yeah.
Delete the exceptions would be the one for the voter for the.
So just say delete exceptions once,
Yeah.
not remove it, but just say it once. Absolutely.
Okay.
Okay. I'm just for the sake of clarity, I'm skipping over the open meeting law reminder. And the last item on our agenda is community feedback on the initial report. Erica, you discussed this a little in the outreach update.
If this agenda item is about what we're going to be doing with the initial report, then yes, we did discuss it.
Exactly. Great. Perfect. Topics not anticipated and future agenda planning. I know I already sent an email to Meg and Marcus asking if next Thursday at 7 p.m. works. And I've asked Athena if she will be able to post that or not. And I'll let you all know when they all get back to me and I'll post the meeting, if that works. And we know what will be on that agenda. So other topics, before we adjourn?
No
See
new
any?
topics, if you could just follow up somehow about if you do get in touch with the tech support that's required for the
Absolutely. I have some free time tomorrow, so I'll head to Staples and maybe something will happen.
You may want to talk to our IT director.
Oh, yeah, that's a great idea. I can do that as well. Do I have a
He's
motion?
got a number of tricks up his sleeve.
Awesome.
Just to go back to the open meeting law reminder, it would be
Yep.
interesting. You may be interested in reading through that because of, among other things, it defines what a public body is.
Yes. I just figured to include it. It might be helpful. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion
So
to.
moved.
Second. Great. Myself, I'm an I. Bernie?
Yes.
Raphael?
Yes.
Andy?
Yes.
Erica?
yes.
Ken?
Yes.
All right. Have a great night, everybody. Thank you. See you
Bye.
next week.
Bye.
Bye bye.